Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Okay, we're back on another Breaking Brews episode. We have the new Marvel Secret Lair drops. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this is my favorite one so far. Storm, Force of Nature, temur colors. Oh, so I'm also starting this new thing. On the left-hand side of your screen, you're gonna see 3 to 4 words that are on Scryfile Tagger that describe the card on the right-hand side. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with Storm's Force of Nature, 4 major words that summarize her pretty much. So we got Give Storm, right? That's gonna be uh the card that gives the storm mechanic. Whenever it says gives, it gives something, right? Saboteur is where you receive something after you deal combat damage to an opponent. Also, she has evasion. I'm going to read the card later on, right? Then she has synergy with instants and sorceries. So let me get right into Storm Forces of Nature on the next slide. All right, for temur colors, blue, red, green, and one colors. She's a 3/4 mutant hero with flying and vigilance. She has the ability Ceaseless Tempest. Whenever Storm deals combat damage to a player, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn has Storm. When you cast it, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. I will tell you this is the most important thing that you need to know about Storm for non-Storm players or first-time Storm players. The Storm ability stacks. I repeat, the Storm ability stacks. So if you are familiar with Prowess and you have a creature with 2 instances of Prowess, that means it does an additional trigger of Prowess. This is the same thing with Storm. Ooh, I'm just giving you a little bit of sprinkle before we get to the next cards. But first, what do we do with the Storm ability? So I imagine once you deal combat damage with Storm Force of Nature, you have a bunch of mana that's mana sink something into, and you have an X spell. X spells, X spells, X spells, right? Culmination of Studies. For blue, red, and X, it's a sorcery that says exile the top X cards of your library. For each land card exile this way, create a treasure token. Okay. For each blue card exile this way, draw a card. For each red card exile this way, Culmination of Studies deals 1 damage to each opponent. What you need to know about this card, all of your multicolored cards that you exile, okay, each multicolored card you exile counts as a color. So if you exile a blue-red card, you're going to be able to draw a card and deal 1 damage to each opponent. Why this card is so good with a storm ability? Because if you cast two spells before it, then you cast this, you get to do this 3 times. So imagine getting a refund ability where you are getting lands or mana instantly payback. You're also ramping, putting out treasure tokens. You're burning your opponents, and you're drawing cards all on one spell. So doing this multiple times is pretty much allowing you to reveal your deck. Reveal your deck and allow you to play more cards and deal damage at the same time. So I can only imagine if you pumped out a bunch of mana into this culmination of studies, you could win the game, especially late game. Okay, so back to giving instance and sorcery spells Storm. We have Apex of Power. It's expensive to cast for a total of 10 mana, 3 red and 7. It's a sorcery that reads exile the top 7 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast a spell from among them. Okay, that is impulsive draw right there, players. Then, if this spell was cast from your hand, add 10 mana of any one color. So essentially, you're getting your mana back. You're getting a free spell, right? This is if you cast it by itself. You're getting a free spell. You're getting 10 mana, and you're revealing the top 10 cards of your library. So imagine if you copy this, okay? You only tapped 10 mana, quote unquote. You could copy this, and you copy this 3 times. You get 30 mana, reveal the top, what? 7 times 3 is 21. 21 cards of your deck, and you get to play them? Yeah, that's asking for another like burn spell to finish off your opponents. 30 mana? This is crazy. Yeah, Apex of Power is the answer. It is a ritual, it adds multiple mana, and it has the refund effect here. Refund is not an official effect. It's just refund is just like a term that says when you play a spell, you get mana back either by untapped lands or mana add to it. Apex of Power. This is a game winner with Storm. Okay, so Kruphix God of Horizons. If you never played with this commander, it can be kind of tricky, but it's one of my favorite commanders ever. Ever. It's literally a giant mana filter, right? But the only problem was it was blue green. Now, if you add it to Storm, Force of Nature, wow. So let me explain what he does. He is a 4/7 god, indestructible, for 3 mana, blue and a green. As long as your devotion to green and blue is less than 7, Kruphix is not a creature. You have no maximum hand size. And it says if unused mana will empty from your mana pool, that mana becomes colorless instead. So essentially, when he hits the battlefield, and each turn you have open mana, before your next turn, you can tap mana, whatever color it is, and it turns into colors and it stays, quote unquote, in this space for you to use later on. That's pretty much how it goes. Like somebody in the comments below write how to properly explain this, but literally it's not even your turn. It could be another player's turn. You tap 2 mana. That 2 mana is stored on. I put it on Kruphix, right? So by the next turn happens, I got 2 additional mana. So you save mana for each turn. So imagine if you have Storm and you want to play an X spell later on after you do combat damage and you want to cast that instant or sorcery. You got an additional 6 mana stored from Kruphix. Wow. Yeah. Kruphix God of Horizon is a must have in this deck. Okay, players. I have this new thing that I'm on, finding spells that cost less to cast, and I found this one for Storm. You're gonna love it. It better be on. It's not even on EDH Rec yet. I'm literally making this Saturday morning before EDH Rec and anybody has created a deck list for these cards. These are just 5 cards I think you can add to Storm Force of Nature. Anyway, Gust of Wind for 4 mana is a sorcery. It says this spell costs 2 less to cast if you control a creature with flying. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. Draw a card. What else I got to say here, players? What else I got to say? It is a bounce spell and you get to draw a card. So if you storm with this, let's say 3 times, right? You're drawing 3 cards and you're bouncing 3 non-land permanents you don't control. That's crazy right there. And it only costs for 2 mana. The value is insane on this. Thank me later. Just thank me by subscribing. That's how I want to know I need to be thanked. So when I see the analytics, I see all these subscribers from this video. You saw this part, Gust to win. Okay, so I will always tell you I'm a Spellslinger at heart. I love Spellslinging. I love having a handful of cards and my opponents have no clue what's in it. So we have Doc, Arlock, Grizzled Genius. For 2 mana, blue and a green. He's a bear druid legendary creature. Spells you cast from your graveyard or exile cost 2 less to cast. Plotting cards from your hand cost 2 less to cast. So you remember that Apex of Power and you had the exile cards, but you can play them from exile? If you have Doc Arlock Grizzled Genius on the battlefield, they cost 2 less to play. Oh my gosh, that's nasty right there. There's listen, when you are spell slinging, you need to reduce the cost of the spell. That is super important. Not all the time you're going to be able to mana ramp and have enough mana. It's actually more cost effective reducing the amount of colorless mana to spend on each spell versus mana ramping. Mathematically, it's better. Trust me. Yeah, but otherwise, plotting cards from your hand costs 2 less to cast. I don't think plotting is super popular among a lot of players yet. I think they're afraid to be able to plot. Let me know any feedback if you actually use the plot mechanic. Long story short, the plot mechanic is where you pay a certain amount of mana, you exile the card, and you can play it later for a different cost. Plotting. Okay, so hear me out here. This is Dragonstorm. This is an old school card. Getting on a storm theme because we have Storm, Force of Nature. Dragonstorm was a 9 CMC card. It's a sorcery. Search your library for a dragon permanent card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Then it has the storm mechanic. So you remember when I said storm stacks? Yeah. So to say you know, play 2 spells before this, right? So you get the storm 3 times, then it storms again. So is that another 3? I believe that might be another 3. So you can make a dragon deck out of Storm Force of Nature? Is that a reach? That's not a reach. Somebody out there is going to make a dragon deck with Storm Force of Nature. Y'all let me know how this works. You can definitely build a commander deck where it's focused off of a main card. I mean, it's not hard to tutor a sorcery with blue in your deck. So y'all let me know if the amount of copies of Storm is correct. If you play 2 spells before your Dragon Storm, that means it storms 3 times. Then it says when the copy for each spell cast before it this turn. Let's see. That should be 3, so it should be another 3. That means you can get out 6 dragons from your deck and put them onto the battlefield. Anyway, yeah. Y'all let me know in the comments below. Okay, so this card, if you're a Spellslinger, I will always put this card as an alert for you guys. Always. Damping Sphere. It is a nasty Spellslinger hate card. It's for 2 mana only. Artifact. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces 1 colors instead of any other type and amount. So all those lands that tap for 2 mana, yeah, it only taps for 1. Then it says each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. This shows you how important is cost reducing, because if you have to pay an extra mana for each additional spell, you're going to be tapped out. You're literally being limited to 1 spell per turn. So yeah, beware this card, players. So once again, thank you for watching this video. I got more Marvel characters Secret Lair drop videos coming out right now, so go ahead and binge watch it. If you liked the video and like anything that you saw, anything that was useful while you're about to brew it, because Saturday morning I'm here with y'all putting this stuff together for y'all players. Yeah, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and watch the next video.